Welcome into the American Digital Network studio. I'm Haley Outen. The American Athletic Conference had a big announcement last week, adding the Wichita State Shockers to the league effective this upcoming academic year. And to talk more about it, we're now joined on Skype by CBS sports writer Matt Norlander. Matt, thanks for hopping on this call with us. There's been quite a bit of conversation regarding this announcement. What has been your take on the reaction?
Well, it's been positive all around on behalf of Wichita State and the American, and that's rightful reaction in my opinion because it obviously bolsters the league. This is beneficial to both parties. Wichita State now upgrades its conference. I do have a little bit of a soft spot for the Missouri Valley because that's been a really good league in the past, and it's lost Creighton to the Big East and now Wichita State to the American. So that conference has to figure itself out in terms of who it can replace to kind of keep it standing as a top 12 league in college basketball. The American now, definitively in my mind, has established itself as a major conference. And while Power 5 is a football term, and I've kind of said traditional Big Six conferences in the past in regard to the Power 5 and the Big East, I now think that there's a definitive grouping, like a major 7, if you will. The American, because it gets Wichita State and it has big-time brands like Connecticut, Temple, Memphis, SMU's been really good as of late, Cincinnati, obviously. You now have a clear-cut, I think, defined line in college basketball with the top 7 conferences in that sport. So it's great for Wichita State, and going forward, I'll be interested to see how Greg Marshall's team will be able to schedule, most importantly, because he was able to get some games here and there, but now with the stronger conference affiliation, he should be able to get more aggressive non-conference scheduling in November and December.
Yeah, you just mentioned him, men's basketball head coach Greg Marshall. He's built this program to become a nationally recognized brand for the future of his program. Why was this move a priority to the university?
Well, primarily because of this, and let's discuss this very clearly here. One, Wichita State the past 2 years had gotten jobbed on seeding by the NCAA Tournament Selection Committee. In 2016, it earned an 11 seed when it probably should have been around a 7 or so. But traditional RPI numbers prohibited that. And then this past season, of course, Wichita State, the most famous seed snub in the history of the tournament, they get a 10 when the metrics suggested they should have been anywhere between a 4 and a 6. And so at a certain point, you know, Greg Marshall, a real quick history lesson here, he used to coach at Winthrop. And after, 6-7 years, he basically knew that unless he was perfect in his conference tournament, no matter how good his team was, even if they had 26, 27 wins, he wasn't going to get into the tournament, so he takes the Wichita State job. And now it's kind of a repeat of that at a higher level. He can get into the tournament, but his seeding isn't going to be rewarded whatsoever. So now he does this because he figures that the team will get more respect when it comes to seeding. I will say this, though. The American has not been given the respect that it has earned by the selection committee in recent years. I mean, SMU and Cincinnati seeds this year were the same, despite the fact that SMU had a better finish overall within the league and when you consider the league tournament. So I'd like to see the conference itself start to be more respected in the eyes of the selection committee because it's been a good league, but that has not been reflected in the way it's been seeded. So going forward, because Wichita State is now in the league, I would hope and think that we might see a behavioral change on behalf of the tournament selection committee and how it puts teams from the American into the bracket and where it sees them. Because in my opinion, this year, SMU at worst should have been a 4, and of course they weren't placed on that line.
Yeah, I think many are hoping this is a move that come March will help the conference as a whole and Wichita State. But the Shockers are a program that returned almost all of its minutes and all of its scoring, projected right now to be a top 10 team at the start of next season. In your mind, how dangerous is next year's group?
Extremely dangerous, and this is the perfect timing here because who's to say what's going to come 3 to 5 years down the road? Greg Marshall going, by the way, Wichita State going to the American and Greg Marshall being with this program, maybe he never takes another job because of how much he's a top 10 paid coach and all of that. But the timing of this, Wichita State, I think, is a top 5 team in all of college basketball heading into next season. It comes as a boost for the American to have a team that good, a well-known brand name, because we have some unknowns within the league. Memphis has obviously had some transfer issues. UConn's going to be coming back after having a lot of injury issues whatsoever all over the place. So if you're looking big picture, Wichita State will probably carry the flag for the conference next year in its first season and has the potential to be a number 1 seed type if it's able to get the kind of consistency that it did this past season. Obviously, the league will be a little bit tougher next year. I'm very interested to see who Wichita State schedules. But broadly speaking, this is the perfectly timed move for the American and Wichita State because the consensus will be that the Shockers will be a top 10 team next year.
Matt, with a team like Wichita State and the conference joining forces, you mentioned it regarding the NCAA tournament, the Shockers likely a preseason favorite and playing at this high level. How much do you think this will up the perception of the level of competition in the American Athletic Conference?
I think it's going to be coming now. Let's see what SMU does next year. They're losing some talent. Cincinnati should be really good again. Ultimately, a program like UConn, it means so much to the league. I'm not speaking out of school here. If UConn's not good, the perception of the American's going to be down. Obviously, it was a very rough year for UConn. It's a critical year next season for Kevin Ollie. They do have talent coming back. It can't just be Cincinnati's a top 20 team, Wichita State's a top 10 team, and that's going to totally be the tide that rises all boats in the American. You're going to have more teams than that. I'd like to see Temple have a solid season. They've got a chance to be a top 40 team. In my opinion, if you can get 4 or 5 teams minimally into the NCAA tournament conversation, I think that's pivotal. But obviously, the biggest brand names being good is going to help that conference in a big-time way. And then there are other teams like, obviously Central Florida had a good season this past season. Can they return and still have an NCAA tournament-type team? I think that's possible. But obviously, the most important factor, I would say next season, it's Wichita State being a top 10 team, and then UConn being a top 25 team. We don't have any guarantees of that, but those are the 2 most important factors. I think SMU, Cincinnati will still be good, but we've got to kind of wait and see elsewhere what happens with the league. But without a doubt, it's now, as I coming full circle here with this discussion, it is clearly like there's a clear line now. There are a top 7 conferences in college basketball. The American is in that, and it's not even necessarily 7th, by the way. With the membership that it has now, it's got a solid chance to float between that 4 and 6 range, depending on how teams perform next season.
All right, Matt. Well, we appreciate the time and the insight today. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.